Hi everyone and welcome back to Katha by Shraddha, coming to you today from Govia Marina, a beautiful villa society in Siolim, Goa. I'm on vacation here and I thought, why not record a beautiful folk tale from Goa for you? So here it is. The story is called The Son-in-law and Payasam. Now, as you know, all over India, son-in-laws are almost revered and honored in their wives' houses, at their homes of their wives, at their in-laws' place. And Goa is no different. So the story starts with a son-in-law visiting his wife's home in a small village. And the son-in-law arrives on a Monday. Now, Goa is known for its wonderful fish and chicken dishes and Portuguese meat dishes. But on Mondays, usually, people turn vegetarian. No meat, no fish, no prawns on Monday. Now, when the son-in-law arrives on a Monday, his mother-in-law is all confused. What can she make for her son-in-law? What kind of dishes? So she prepares a plethora of wonderful, tasty, yummy vegetarian dishes. There is kheer, which is like a vegetable stew made out of 5 to 7 vegetables. There is tambdi bhaji, which is amaranth stalks cut freshly from her garden, and she makes a sumptuous bhaji or vegetable with it. There is udit methi made out of kairi, raw mango curry. You can just feel that on your tongues, can't you? There are all kinds of chutneys and salads and raitas, and there's also sol curry, the wonderful sweet and tangy coconut sol curry. And the son-in-law relishes all these dishes. He eats, he licks his fingers, and he eats some more, and he eats some more, and he eats some more, until his tummy is really full, and not a single bite more can be taken in. And just then his mother-in-law walks out with this huge pot of sweet smelling payasam. Payasam is a milk sweet dish made out of milk, like a kheer, and it is made out of sevaiya or vermicelli. And the son-in-law looks at that pot, and as it approaches him, and his mother-in-law smiles very sweetly at him and says, "Beta, you have to have this. This is the sweet dish of the gods. You have to taste this. Even the gods cannot refuse." But he's very full, and he takes a peek into the pot, and he's never had payasam before. And when he peeks into the pot, he sees the vermicelli floating in there, and it looks kind of like white worms. And he's like, "I don't think I want to eat that." So he says, "Na, mai naka, puro, pot bharla. I'm really full. I don't want any more. I don't want any. Please, no more." And he covers his dish with both his hands, just as his mother-in-law was about to serve him the lovely, sweet, hot payasam. And a few drops of the sweet milk fall on his hand. And the mother-in-law is very surprised, and she steps back, and she doesn't serve him, but she quietly goes to the other members of the family and serves them. And the son-in-law is looking at everybody else around him, enjoying and relishing this sweet dish at the end of their meals. And he wonders, did I make a mistake? Is it really such a dish that the gods would not refuse this dish and I refused it? And then he sees that on his hands, a few drops of milk have fallen. So he surreptitiously just licks them, and so sweet and so delicious. And he regrets not having the payasam. And there's payasam on his mind that entire afternoon after lunch. Even during his nap, his afternoon siesta, he has payasam dreams. And he wakes up and ready for his evening meal, and hopes and wishes that his mother-in-law would offer to serve him payasam again at dinner. But unfortunately, once bitten, twice shy. The mother-in-law doesn't offer payasam, doesn't offer anybody payasam for dinner. It's another sumptuous meal, but no payasam. And the son-in-law has this regret that's building inside of him, saying, I really wish I had tasted that payasam. And now I'll never know what it tastes like properly, and I will never have my fill of payasam. And he goes to sleep that night. But sleep is hard to come by. He has payasam on his mind. Payasam. So he wakes up in the middle of the night, and he tiptoes to the kitchen, hoping against hope that he can find that pot of Payasam. It was such a big pot, he was sure that it wasn't over, probably wasn't over, the one that was made in the afternoon. And as he walks into the kitchen, the house cat, Manzar tak padeta, the cat is watching him and wondering, what is this man doing walking in the middle of the night into the kitchen of all things, of all places. So the cat follows him, and he is going into the kitchen with the cat following him. And in the dark, he feels around, and as luck would have it, he finds the pot of Payasam. But you know what? There's very, very, very little Payasam left at the bottom. So he struggles, he puts his hand all the way in, it's a huge pot, and his hand doesn't even reach, and it's, doesn't reach all the way, and he's unable to pick up the Payasam. So what does he do? Picks up that heavy pot and he puts it over his head, hoping that some drops will trickle down, some of the Payasam, the vermicelli will dribble down into his mouth. And he's waiting for those sweet, sweet, sweet drops to fall in his mouth. And the cat gets very suspicious. This is not normal behavior for humans. And she pounces. She jumps on him, and she jumps on the pot, and whoop, the pot falls on the man's head, on the son-in-law's head, and his head gets stuck in that matka, in that pot. And he doesn't know what to do, and there's a big loud noise as he thrashes about trying to get the pot off of his head. And the Payasam is now, the leftover Payasam is all dripping over his face, and he's getting all kinds of licks and tastes in there. But now his only problem is, it's so embarrassing. He'll be caught with this Payasam pot on his head. The son-in-law of the house caught in such a situation. That is so sad. It'll be so embarrassing. He'll never be able to live this down. Hearing the noise, the whole household wakes up, and their mother-in-law, who is the fastest and quickest in her thoughts, picks up a big stick and she barges into the kitchen thinking it's a robber in the house. And she looks at this man with the pot on his head thrashing about, thinks it's a robber, and wham, hits the pot, breaking it into pieces. And who does she find there? It's her honored son-in-law. And everybody else is quickly gathering into the kitchen. But the mother-in-law is a very intelligent woman, and she knows that if the real story comes out, because she understands what her son-in-law was up to, he had refused the Payasam, and she is sure that he could not stop thinking of the Payasam, and that's why he's here in the middle of the night trying to get a taste, and caught by the pot and probably the cat. So she does some very quick thinking on her feet, and as everyone streams into the kitchen, and she says, "Oh look, our son-in-law is so kind and sweet that he actually stopped the cat from stealing the Payasam. He saw the cat coming into the kitchen, and he brought this big stick, and he was trying to, push the cat out of the jar, and he broke the jar, and that's how he got all the Payasam on himself." And she saves her son-in-law's honor. And the son-in-law is very, very grateful. So everything settles down for the night. And the next morning, as the son-in-law is getting ready to make his journey back to his home and back to his wife from his in-law's house, the mother-in-law, as he, bends down to do namaskar to her and stands up, she whispers in his ear, saying, "Zawai," means son-in-law, "Zawai, chalik sang magelya, tuka Payasam kan diuchak. Tell my daughter to cook Payasam for you. The name of the dish is Payasam." And the son-in-law breaks into a wide smile, saying, "I never realized my wife could make Payasam. I have to remember that name, Payasam, Payasam, Payasam." And as he's receiving gifts from everybody in the family and getting ready to go, he keeps repeating the name to himself because he should not forget the name, Payasam. And he walks away from his in-law's house, and he walks all the way to the banks of the river. He has to cross the river in order to go across to his own village and his own home. And as he reaches the river bank, essentially what happens is that there's a little boat, a ferry boat, and the ferryman says, "It's afternoon and I need to go for my lunch, and I cannot ferry you across right now. So you'll have to wait here for an hour. I'll have my lunch and I'll come back." But the son-in-law just has Payasam on his mind, and he can't wait to get home. He just cannot wait to get home until he tells his wife the word Payasam, and she makes it for him and he eats it. So he decides, of all the things, he decides to swim across the river. This man, I tell you. But anyway, so he starts swimming across the river and he manages to cross the river and gets home dripping wet. But while swimming against the swift current of the river, what do you think has happened? He's forgotten the name Payasam. The only thing he can remember is So he reaches home and tells his wife, and his wife is anxious, right, to know how is her mother, how is her father, how are all her siblings. So she asks her husband, "Kashe saath, sagre kashe saath, how is everybody?" And he says, yeah, everybody is fine, they're doing great, everyone's healthy and safe and all. But you know, your mother has told you to make for me. He's forgotten the name Payasam. She's like, What is How does one make You know the dish that your mother makes, it's called and it's so tasty. I just got a drop to actually taste, and I really feel I'm craving to eat Please make And the wife says, "But what are you talking about?" And they get into an argument. And then the neighboring elderly lady hears them. And she comes into their house and says, wait, what are you talking about, child? Can you describe this dish? And then he says, "It's so yummy. It's made out of hot milk and it's very sweet and it's got worms in it. Long, white worms, worm-like things in it. And I got to taste just a little bit, but it's a dish of the gods and I refused it and I feel so sad and I really want to taste again." And the old woman, the elderly woman, recognizes this dish as Payasam, and she tells his wife, he's talking about Payasam, just make some Payasam for him. And the wife makes Payasam, and finally the son-in-law gets to eat Payasam to his heart's content. And that was a folk tale of the son-in-law and Payasam. And it's a very well-known folk tale from Goa, and it's told in many different forms and storylines with little embellishments here and there. But I hope you like this version of the story. Coming to you from Govea Marina in Siolim, Goa. Thank you for joining us, and see you in our next episode. Bye.